There has been a lot in the news recently about the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility or SAVE Act, which requires voters to provide documentary proof of citizenship at the time of voter registration and provide a photo ID in order to vote in federal elections. The H.R. 22 SAVE Act, introduced by Texas Representative Chip Roy last year, also requires all states to remove non-citizens from their official lists of eligible voters and provides for criminal penalties for registering an applicant to vote in a federal election who fails to present documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. Racist U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer claims that the SAVE Act will cause Hispanics, Asians, Italians, Africans, women of all races, and other minorities in the U.S. to not be able to vote since all in that group are too uneducated to figure out how to obtain a simple photo ID. Schumer has also racially profiled the SAVE Act as being Jim Crow 2.0 and revealed his bigotry of having low expectations among minority groups by assuming that minority citizens are uniquely incapable of obtaining standard identification.
It has nothing to do with protecting our elections and everything to do with federalizing voter suppression. The SAVE Act is dead on arrival in the Senate. Hear that, House, right-wingers? It ain't happening.
Chuck Schumer leaves no doubt about his bigotry and obvious racism.
71% of Democrats like this idea, so why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. This is vicious and nasty, and I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate.
Normal people would ask, what is so offensive about requiring a person to prove that they are citizens in order to vote in our elections only allowed to U.S. citizens? If Schumer really thinks that getting a valid photo ID is such an insurmountable task, then why isn't he arguing that you should also not need a photo ID in order to buy liquor, to buy cigarettes, be allowed into a nightclub, or allowed to board a flight on a commercial airline? Should we call all commercial airlines the Jim Crow of the skies? And are Schumer and several other Democrats shocked by the racist policy of requiring a valid ID to obtain a marriage license, to rent a car for the day, to check into a hotel, start a new job, or cash a check at a bank? Are postal employees racist because they ask for a valid ID before allowing you to pick up a package? Do you suspect that someone could not possibly be that racist, insensitive, or ignorant, but that they are actually only attempting to hold on to the old ways of ensuring the ability to cheat on elections and the dependence on voter fraud to win elections? Anywhere in the United States, you need a valid photo ID in order to drive a car, open a bank account, enter the U.S. Capitol, and if you are a senator, Senator Schumer, you must insert a valid photo ID into the vote tabulator in order to cast your vote for legislation, bills, resolutions, amendments, motions, and nominations. Yes, in order to perform certain activities, we are required to prove who we say we are. You're required to bring a valid, government-issued photo ID, such as a driver's license or passport, to report for jury duty. A photo ID is necessary for security entrance to the courthouse and for verifying your identity during the jury selection process. All these things are not even close to being uncommon. Voting in federal elections to choose who will be leading our country is most definitely an important activity. So then, why is the ballot box the single most sacred instrument of our democracy, the one single place we're told that asking for a valid ID is wrong or even more absurd, racist? In the year 2000, out of approximately 6 million votes cast in Florida, 537 decided the presidential election outcome. And in many, especially local elections, it's common to have a tie. In this case, one single non-citizen's vote could cancel out one American citizen's legal vote. The most insulting argument that Schumer makes is the notion that minorities, the poor or rural Americans, are incapable of obtaining an ID.
You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID? That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so like, we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. Like, that's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, an ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
What is this, some type of trick candy camera?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that, on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Did you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
Texas Republican Congressman Chip Roy, who sponsored and introduced the SAVE Act, explains why 71% of Democrats, 95% of Republicans, and 83% of Americans overall are in favor of the SAVE Act.
They want to make sure they protect a constituency that is, they think, going to help them politically. That's why they wanted to have wide open borders. This has always been political. And the other piece to that, I loved it on CNN of all places the other night. They were showing the numbers in terms of the support for voter ID, and upwards of 80% of minorities, Hispanics, Black Americans support voter ID. That is the ultimate form of racism. And the classic white liberal to be standing up and saying that somehow this is going to disadvantage poor or minority or rural people. I saw there was a great interview in New York, and they went and interviewed white liberals in Manhattan and said, hey, voter ID is a racist. Oh, yeah, it's terrible. Black people don't have computers. They don't know where the DMV is. They can't get a voter ID. And then they went to Harlem, and they talked to black people in Harlem and said, hey, do you know where the DMV is? Yeah, it's up here at 128th Street. Hey, do you have a voter ID? Yeah, it's in my wallet, right? It is the ultimate form of racism. And white liberals, including the white liberals in the Senate and in the House, they want to perpetuate it. And all we're doing is putting forward a simple bill that says when you next register, demonstrate your citizenship, check the voter rolls, make states, we want to put the burden on states to check the voter rolls, make sure they're citizens, and then have voter ID when you show up to the polls. Not hard, not complex, polls at 80-something%.
According to Senator Adam Schiff of California, telling people that they have to show an ID somehow will stop them from voting.
This is another way to simply try to suppress the vote.
However, here's the truth.
Yeah, look, this bill is designed to protect the vote. We want to protect citizens' right to vote. We want to protect their ownership and making sure this country is going down the right path and not allowing illegal aliens. Like we had 10 million people flood into our country. Democrats want to use, they're open and they admit it. They want to use it to pack their districts. We got to deal with the census too. All this is doing is trying to force the question, simple question, when you register to vote, demonstrate your citizenship. And by the way, they're pulling up all these false flags, right? Saying women are going to get disenfranchised because they change their name when they get married. Well, first of all, that'd be for like 6 people in America who happen to have just gotten married and maybe they got an ID but didn't change their voter rolls. Okay, we allow for states to fix that. And in fact, we put in this bill, sign an affidavit. I got married. My name was, previously Smith. Now it's Jones. And you can vote. We're making it very simple. We're making it easy for the men and women in uniform. They're trying to say this will disenfranchise our military. No, it won't. We don't touch UACAVA, which is the law that allows all of our men and women in uniform to be able to vote when they're serving overseas with a military ID. These are all fake. They're doing it on purpose. Don't buy all of the nonsense. They're trying to scare you. We've got good legislation to protect America.
The arguments that have been laid out to criticize this bill are baseless speculation from the radical left because they want illegal aliens to vote in our elections. They want to disenfranchise American citizens by telling them that their votes don't matter. There's only one reason that anyone would oppose this bill, and that's because they would want to cheat. They want illegal people and aliens in this country to be able to vote for them and to rob the United States citizens of their vote. And that's why they resist us at every single level when we're trying to deport people back to their home countries or stop them from committing crimes against the American people. That's why they do not support voter ID, proof of U.S. citizenship, or clean voter rolls. That's why the Save America Act is absolutely critical to our country's future. Because without secure elections, we lose what makes our country so great. And then when we lose that, we lose our country altogether. Almost 200 years ago in 1833, a Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story warned us with this. And he warned us this about illegal entry into our country. If aliens might be admitted indiscriminately to enjoy all of the rights of citizens at the will of a single state, the Union itself might be endangered by an influx of foreigners, hostile to its institutions, ignorant of its powers, and incapable of a due estimate of its privileges. There is no room in our election system for people that aren't Americans. There is no room in our election system for fraudsters and foreign influence. The Declaration of Independence said this simple, self-evident truth, that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. Fair and secure elections are how we measure the consent of the governed, and they ensure that our American citizens' voices are heard. Our founders, at the time of the creation of this country, pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to defend our freedoms.